Hello, this is Random Bits, and I'm here to show you how to change or repin an American padlock, American 1100 series. I get these all the time on eBay, and many times they've been rekeyed as a lot. You know, every lock in the same lot is keyed to the same key. But sometimes that's the problem. This is an example of one of those keys. This is a field cut key, and you can kind of tell it has a more traditional peaks and valleys between the cuts there. You see every single one, whereas a factory American key looks flatter, doesn't have those peaks. Problems with the field cut keys, and I'll kind of go into it. It's a problem called the lazy locksmith. What happens is that when they're rekeyed, they're not necessarily rekeyed with factory spec pins, and they tend not to worry about the drivers. The driver pins may be miscategorized. That is, they may have matched up the drivers with the wrong pins, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. So here we've popped open the American lock. No anti-bypass wafer. That's fairly typical. It's about half and half. Half have them when I get them, half don't. Here's the core with the old key. And what we want to do is repin it for this original factory key. Now, we don't know the bitting on this factory key. We can find out a couple different ways. This is a key bitting device that lets you read the bitting of various keys, master, American, right here in the bottom. What we do is we take this device and we insert the key into the stack position that we want to measure, and simply see where it stops. So this one's a 3, next one's a 2, next cut is a 7, looks like. Nope, I'm sorry, missed one. That's the one before it, 3, 7, and the last one is a, if I can get it, there we go. The last one's a 2. So 3, 2, 3, 7, 2. We could have also used a set of micrometers to measure each pin stack position. I've got a cheat sheet on the wall that tells me what measurement equals what pin depth. So anyway, so now we have a cut for that, or we have a code for that key cut 32372. So we can pull those pins out of my collection of American pins here and have that ready. Oh look, somebody's already done that. That's what these pins are right here, 32372. So with that said, how do we actually change the pins? Well, we got to take the lock core apart, and that starts with taking off the E-clip. And here's the old key. Give that a quarter turn, get our follower, and push it out. There we go. Now here are the old pins, obviously, and if we look closely, these actually look fairly decent. One of the issues that I see many times is that when an American's been rekeyed in the field, the lazy locksmith won't use American style pins with serrations and whatnot. They'll just use standard pins, which makes the lock weaker, of course. I don't like to reuse pins, so here's my pin bucket. Pins are cheap, and I'd rather have the right pin come out of the right bin every single time rather than waste my time measuring and sorting and so on. So there we've taken the old pins out. Here's the factory key we want to use. We've already pulled out our pins. That's just 3, 2, 3, 7, 2, and typical for an American 1100, the 6th stack is not used. If you want to get creative and use it, there's actually a longer key blank you can use to cut 6-pin keys. But we're not done quite yet. If you want to make sure that everything lines up to the shear line, which it does, we want to check the Bible as well and make sure that our driver pins are matched up with our key pins. For instance, here's number 1. Number 1 is a serrated spool. Lost a spring. We just dump everything. There we go. And you see we have a combination of serrated pins and some spool pins, typical for an American. But what we want to do is line up the spool pins and the serrated pins according to which key pin they're going to be driving. So let's get our springs back in and then put this thing back together the way it's supposed to be. Thing is, if the key pin is too long and it's paired up with a spool driver, you'll never actually engage the spool just due to how things align. There's 4 and here's 5. Now, our replacement key biddings 32372. Any key pin with a 3 or lower should be paired up with a spool driver. Anything over 3, 4 and above should be paired up with a serrated driver. Now, it looks like with a 32372, we need 4 spools and 1 serrated. So, let me go grab a spool here. There we go. Now we can pair them up correctly. So 32372. So 1. Gets a serrated spool. Actually, it should probably go with 3. 3 gets a serrated spool. 2 is a 2, so it gets a serrated spool. 1's a 3, so he gets a serrated spool. We'll twist around and get 4 and 5. 4's a 7, so 7 gets the serrated. And 5 is a 2. So 5 gets a serrated spool. Sometimes when these locks have been rekeyed in the field, they won't have the original key pins, but they will have the original drivers. They just won't be matched up correctly. So now we have a Bible that's good to go. Let's take our replacement key, put it in the core. It still lines up beautifully. And then if we've done all our work correctly, this should go back together and work with a new key. We're going to set the key, and we don't do anything until we put that C-clip back on, because we don't want locks exploding all over the desk. Here's our new key, works flawlessly. Now we can put them back in the lock. We're going to install an anti-bypass wafer, and that means you have to be kind of funky when you put it back in the lock. There we go. On the plate, security nut, and screw. And before we commit ourselves, there we go. And that's how you rekey an American 1100 series. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll make more as I can. Thanks.